after the bankers engineer the collapse of the society so they can consolidate it. They pass a law to give themselves immunity. That was the banker bailout. They always pass the law after they've already constructed the system and beta tested it and it's ready to go, or has already been operating. And it's the same thing here. Remember the Houston Chronicle in January of 2006 saying giant 1 million person FEMA camps paid for by the White House and Homeland Security for a subsidiary of Halliburton, Kellogg, Brown, and Root. And then, of course, there were previous camps built in the 80s under Rex 84. That was declassified in Congress. We have the congressional testimony, and people still deny it. We have the secret civilian inmate labor camp program, secretly started in 86. American citizens, federal prisoners, were held in forced labor camps at U.S. military installations in secret to beta test how to keep it secret from 86 to 97 when they declassified it. I'm going to go through the background of this and then give you the new development. What we learned from this bill, the architecture of the death camps. New legislation authorizes FEMA camps in the United States, dovetailing with two rulings in the last 2 weeks by the Supreme Court, savaging the Fourth Amendment, overturning one of the key areas of the Bill of Rights that stands against a tyrannical police state. Homeland Security, announcements of 20,000 combat troops to deal with the American people. The Army War College admitting their new mission is to fight the American people. The entire Homeland Security apparatus announcing through Northcom that it is here to control a military district and an occupied nation. Their words, not mine. It's here. Now, the reason this bill is so key is that it lays out how they're going to sell Americans going into the camps. And the infrastructure and architecture, it's going to be set up under the NAFTA superhighways, which will be armored grids, how they're going to lock down the cities, everything. The clergy response teams, remember 3 years ago, 2 different pastors broke right here on the Genesis Network. Secret FEMA documents, not for disclosure. 13,000 secretly recruited preachers to give sermons telling their flock to turn in their guns, take forced inoculations, go to camps. A year and a half after we broke that story, Pastor Butch Paul and myself, with some of the pastors, by the way, Homeland Security visited them and then threatened them, even though we'd hidden their identity. It came out on the news that indeed they'd done this, and they were doubling it to 26,000 preachers. Now, it doesn't get any more hardcore tyranny than that. You know, the movie Red Dawn, fictitious Russian takeover police state. Who are they using in the little town to suppress the population? The old mayor and the major pastor. That's because they've done this all over Eastern Europe. The Germans did this all over Europe. The communist Chinese did this. This is how it's done. This is how this unfolds, and it's in the bill. It's in the bill. We have them. And it's how they're going to introduce you to the camps. I mean, you don't think they're just going to come out and say, hey, we've built death camps. This is wonderful. No, the Germans, when they put millions of people in forced labor camps, on record, would say, oh, because the economy imploding or because local racial strife or whatever, we're going to take you to your own little fenced community for your safety. Well, that's what this says. This is how they're going to roll it out. This is how they're going to do it. We told you that they would roll out putting troops on the streets to, quote, stop DWI and to help at car wrecks. And what did they come out and say? They're going to help with DWI and car wrecks. How are they going to introduce things where it sounds good? How are they going to introduce compulsory service when it's on change.gov? For basically all Americans up till about age 65? How are they going to do that? They say, oh, soup kitchens, and then they announce what the program really is. So, again, they put it in an envelope of sicky sweetness, but in the middle is the tyranny inside the container. And that's why this legislation is so unbelievable. And it's also a very prominent key member of the New World Order in Congress that's introduced it. So understand, we have been right about everything. So I want to go over how they will get us into the camps, what the camps are going to consist of, how they're going to operate, and how they're going to sell it to the public. I'm going to cover this when we come back from break. And it is of the highest import that even if you're not listening live on the AM or FM shortwave internet satellite, that you take the free podcast, you subscribe to it at Infowars.com. We also post an archive where you can go just grab a single one, that you get it out to everyone you know. Because I'm going to go over the background, I'm going to go over the infrastructure, I'm going to go over how they're going to sell it. We're going to cover it all here today. And the most important point here is, I have predicted in film after film after film and in radio show after radio show with guest after guest exactly how this would be sold, because we had all these other declassified and classified and leaked parts of the program that were compartmentalized, and so I could put them together and see exactly how they would push it and how they would sell it, and that is exactly how they're now doing it. This just further confirms, as we go through time, that we're on target. We know the enemy attack profile. We know the enemy targets. We know the enemy attack profile. We understand how they're going to do it. We understand how they're going to push it. Will we be able to get the word out to the public so they understand the propaganda so they can not be controlled by it?
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Calling all patriots, calling all patriots. This is not a drill. For those that love the Republic, the enemy is publicly unveiling their program under infrastructure protection to turn every major city into a checkpoint, face-scanned, troops on the street corner control grid with domestic spies everywhere, with millions of Americans being taken to forced labor camps. It is in the bill. New legislation authorizes FEMA camps in U.S. All right, let me go through a summation of the basic facts and then go through details. A, this is not new. Quietly, since the 1970s, they have accelerated reopening the old World War II prisoner of war camps, putting in new water and power, keeping them updated and ready. Then under Rex 84, part of it was declassified in congressional hearings, covered in my film Police.Pt.2, The Takeover. But you can just Google Rex 84 FEMA camp hearings, Congress, and it'll come up from 86. In 1990, our insiders in the military told us that the base closures were going to be used for infrastructure protection to build federal control grids that will be local regional capitals over the states and the cities and counties that reside in them, threat integration centers, FEMA command centers. Years later, exactly what our inside sources told us turned out to be 100% accurate. Secretly in 86, under Rex 84, they said we have to train cadres of Army personnel, that it's normal. The first conditioning is of police and military, cross-training them, militarizing them, teaching them the public's the enemy. They set up 12 secret federal prison camps in 1986. You can just Google Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program. You will be on the Army's own website. This is now declassified. And they report it like it's no big deal, where they take federal prisoners and now state prisoners. They've expanded to 24 camps and growing. Remember, with my research, it's only up to the point that I last researched it. And it's such a large area to research that most of my news is about a year old because it only comes out later. Our intelligence is massive, but it's all got to be integrated through my brain, and so I'm not perfect. So it's far worse than I'm saying. That's the bottom line. So secretly, people who said they couldn't have these secretly, on record, the Army admits secretly from 86 to 97, for 11 years, the civilian inmate labor camp program, these are labor camps, was kept secret.